What's good, y'all? So welcome back for another week, another episode. And like we stated before, we got the Wesleys in the building, and we elated. We're grateful to have them on. And I mean, without further ado, my brother, we're gonna dive in. So
For sure.
So you.
So we kind of like to start off our episodes just by diving in on your background and kind of the mud that you was raised in, and so yeah, just kind of tell us about your childhood, where you come from, and things of that nature.
Well, I was telling everybody I'm a South Bender. Born and raised here in South Bend. Grew up on the northwest side of South Bend. Attended Kennedy, Dickinson, and LaSalle High School. I come from a family of 11. I'm 8 of 11 children. Mm-hmm. A family of my parents and everybody stayed at our house. I always tell everybody we had the house that everybody always stayed at. Just really, truly grew up in the church. Grew up Methodist at Grace Amy Zion Church for years, and then after high school, went down to school in Bloomington at Indiana University. And from there, met Derek, which we knew each other in high school. I was a cheerleader over LaSalle. Derek played basketball across town at Riley. I'll let him tell his own story. So the story goes, and then after college, I came back here to South Bend and started working at the public housing. So I started my career in public housing. I worked with residents in public housing and was a coordinator in public housing, and then I worked as also the Vista volunteer supervisor. And so in the daytime, but then at night I worked for the Medical Foundation in toxicology. So I was a drug elimination coordinator for public housing in the daytime, and at night I worked in toxicology, and a lot of people didn't know that. And so at daytime I counseling, coordinating, was able to get residents into drug treatment, and I had a team of 14 and worked with what they called was the PALS at that time, which was the COPS program. They were under my grant. And so from there, just kind of wanted to come back to South Bend and be a part. And that was good for me to come back. I stayed with my parents and kind of, got myself back rooted, and kind of the history after that.
Yeah.
History after that.
Yeah.
Born and raised in South Bend, went to Riley High School.
Wildcats.
Wildcats in the house. Wildcat in the house. And went to Studebaker School for grade school, Jackson Middle School, and was fortunate enough to get a Fulbright scholarship to go to Ball State to play a little basketball and also get an academic education for free. So that was the most important thing. So I graduated at Ball State with my business administration degree, and really loved investing and what I learned in college about investing in stocks and things of that nature in real estate. So ended up working for State Farm in Bloomington, Indiana, down at IU. Didn't like IU when I was in school because all we heard about when we played basketball was IU. But the fortunate thing is I was able to meet this beautiful young lady down there and got married to her. Been married, 27 years?
28.
Wow.
28 years.
Congrats.
28.
And again, started working for State Farm there, then moved to Indianapolis and went in supervisory in State Farm, and then moved back home in South Bend in '94.
Yep,
In August of
After we
'94.
got married in '93. I married in '93. We got engaged Christmas Eve of '92.
Yeah. So we've been back here, and I've been running my own State Farm insurance agency, among other things that we are involved in as far as real estate and things of that nature. So it's good to be back. Even when we had the opportunity to come back, we were pretty excited because, and most of our friends told us in Indianapolis, don't move back to South Bend. And some of our friends in South Bend told us not to move back to South Bend, but we are glad. We wanted to raise our children here.
Yeah.
We kind of knew the landscape. Our parents were here.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm a family of 3, so we're a real close family, although we're small. And so it's kind of weird having a spouse that has a family of 11.
Yeah.
But it's added more family to us, and we have our own children. We have our 3 children that attended South Bend schools, and then we have which is my cousin, my daughter. We call her daughter because her mother died at age 17, so she lived with us her senior year at Adams. Jasmine, she lives in Indianapolis and doing good and soon to be married.
Yeah, yeah.
So, what age did y'all meet down at Bloomington?
Let's see. Depending on if you ask his daddy. Don't ask Big Mo. That's the story.
Okay.
Yeah, actually, tell me he's connected. His dad's connected to
His dad
us, so that's funny.
his dad is connected to us. But we knew each other in high school.
Okay.
So we knew each other in high school. But we all have our own high school sweethearts. But just kind of like, oh hey, that's the basketball player over. And I knew Derek's family.
Okay.
His mom, dad, and his sister through and going to church and stuff with my cousins. But I didn't really know Derek because he was real quiet. And so you just kind of just wave at him. And Derek and I met down in Bloomington by a gentleman from Ball State that lived from Muncie that was attending school in Bloomington. And he happened to ask Derek, hey, do you know this girl named Wesley Waters? He was like, yeah, she's from South Bend. And so I was an RA, so I was a resident assistant, and we had to always come back early. And so I came back in January of '89 on the 3rd because it was rush week and everybody that was pledging. So if you were a RA, you had to come back early. Of course, you've been an RA before.
Yeah.
And so you had to come back early. And so on January 4th of 1989, I got this call in my dorm, and me and some of the other RAs were in there, and he goes, hey, this is, and at this time, y'all, the phones was in the wall. And you had to flip. Now I was RA, so I had my own phone, but just so I could take everybody back. So, and then the phone rang, and it was Derek, and he said, hey, I'm Derek Wesley, it's Leslie Waters. And I said, yeah. He said, hey, I was like, Derek Wesley, and I was like, from South Bend? And he goes, yeah. He said, I live in Bloomington. I work here down here in Bloomington and State Farm. And I was like, oh, you graduated from Ball State? So at this time, I'm like,
She sent dollar signs.
yeah, I was like, you got your
She broke college, we're working, you got a car, you got an apartment.
You're broke, and you're like, I was like, oh, I said, oh, you got an apartment and you live here, you got a car? I'm going, hey, you work for State Farm? Oh, you work for State Farm full time? Yeah, I graduated from Boston. And so at that point, I'm like, oh, I said, well, we're going to a party this evening. I got one of the fraternity brothers was giving a party, and so we was going to a party. I said, meet me at the party. And that was history. That was January 4th of '89, and he drove me back to my dorm. We sat out in front of the dorm, and he was like, don't invite me up. Nope. So we've been friends ever since. And he knew at that time, we stayed out in the car for about 4 hours and talked. And then we were friends. And that's why I tell people all the time, we were best friends. And I was dating somebody, he was dating somebody. And from that standpoint, we developed a relationship. It went from we were friends, and then we were from friends. It was like, oh wait. And then we always tell everybody. So we've been together since January 4th of 1989, and that's been our biggest story. But your dad was down there with us, and it was rocky because here's the realistic part about everything. We try to be real. It was hard because when you have somebody else, you're both dating somebody else. And then now you're like, oh, we just friends. And we would always tell everybody, oh, we just friends. We come to South Bend, and you bring me home from South Bend, and the mom and dads and everybody were like, oh, we just friends. And then the friendship evolved to feelings. And then you had to make a choice. It was a choice piece. Because now families was getting involved, and everybody was like, families was liking, they loved Derek and they was loving me, and then you got to make a decision with the other people that you were involved with. And that was tough, and that's how Big Mo was involved that summer, him and Malcolm. And so, Mo and Malcolm. And they were students down there, and so, we tell everybody, Mo really played a role because when that was making that decision point, it was like, hang in there. He was talking with Derek, and he would talk with me, and that's why we always say that it was not always a fairy tale. You just kind of go into a relationship, and I think a lot of times people see us and say, "Oh, you just look picture perfect." Nobody's picture perfect.
Yeah.
some of y'all's young people, anybody that's watching, it's not picture perfect, but you have to make a decision. And then you know when you have a soulmate, and you know when somebody is definitely for you. And that's been the thing, and as people talk with us, they're like, y'all been together for so long, and I said, yeah, and trying to beat the odds, okay? Because a lot of people, all our friends around us have been divorced, and i.e. either separated, and then, you know, not a week, a month go by, and somebody calling going, you know, hey, we separate, and we try to, you know, we are friends first, and that's what we tell people. What was some of the difference with the friends first? So we could look at some of the bumps and bruises and go through some of those rocky times and go, and I think that's what is missed often, is the friendship.
So what was that transition like, if we fast forward a little bit to where when y'all come back home, move together, what was it like, what was the daily grind like as you are back in your city, trying to get back rooted because you've been at school, you know, being away, trying to find your niche back in what the community needs you to do, and what you bring to the table. What was that transition like? What was the daily grind like, trying to get back to fulfilling your role in the community or helping others come from the mud?
Well, a lot of it was, you know, we were running a business, so we needed to network. We needed to get out and show our faces and let everybody know we were back in the community. But I did manage to get involved in coaching. So I did volunteer for Riley for 3 years when I got back. And I think that's when Cedric Moody and Steve Reynolds and all those guys were playing. I was coaching at Riley, and Sid was over at Washington. So it gave me an opportunity to get out in the community and be seen, and people say, oh, you're back in town, things of that nature. And then after about 2 or 3 years, she went ahead and did her own career after we had State Farm settled. So she had some good friends from LaSalle that happened to have a mortgage company, and then she went into Key Bank. She did mortgages for Key Bank, had some friends. So all the contacts eventually took her away from our business. But it was good because she needed to branch out and needed to do what she wanted to do. And then that's how we were able to grow the other businesses that we had. So, you know, one business is your anchor, and it's always been, I've been with State Farm for 32 years. So it's been our anchor, but it's allowed us to have stability there and branch out and do some other things.
Speaking of State Farm, like, can we talk to the people just the importance of insurance and the ins and outs of it, and some good policies or some good things to capitalize on, especially at all ages, or just not knowing, having the information about the insurance? What would be something that you could give?
Yeah, one of the things about insurance is that when you buy a product, let's say a home or a car, and you finance it, they're going to make you get insurance. So that's not a no-brainer.
Right.
The part that we miss out is we don't have life insurance as a community. When we see these young kids die and they're getting buried, people are getting together and sharing money and things of that nature. You know, that's what our community needs. We need to go ahead and purchase that life insurance, which is ironically very cheap. You know, what do you mean very cheap? A lot of the parents could even have kids on their own policy themselves as a rider for $6 or $7, and it'll cover them to age 25. Then when they get older, they can get their own policy. And people don't know that. So it's a lack also of information, but it's also a lack of asking. And then if you're employed, most people have employer life insurance plan where you can cover all your kids as part of the package. So the things are out there, but we have to make them a priority, like we make, you know, our shoes, our grooming and all that a priority. So, but insurance is, for the most part, if you buy a house and you buy a car and you finance it, they're going to make you get insurance. So you don't have many options there.
So let's dive into, once you started branching off and you started to delve into trying to tap into the real estate game, what's some game that you could give the people about buying a house, or just because there's so many people our age that's coming back from school and they trying to figure out how to get their own place, what are the avenues that they can use to get their own place, and even for people that may have been renting for a long time that's looking to get their own place.
I will let you talk about the real estate, but first, just to let you know, it's all about sacrifices. When we moved back from South
I was
Bend,
thinking the same thing.
my parents had just built a house. And so we decided to stay with them for 3 years.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And they didn't have any kids or anything there, but that's a sacrifice we made because we wanted to save money to put down on down payment, and we wanted to build our second house. Because we did build one in Indianapolis, but we had to sell it 3 months later.
Dang.
We moved back 3 months later.
Wow.
And we made money off
Wow.
of it.
Yeah.
That's how
Yeah.
good the real estate market was up there. So when we moved back here, because I went from a salary, and she went to salary to commission, which most people won't even try to do commission. I was only paid based on commission now,
Yeah.
not on the salary.
Dang.
So it was all about risk.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to risk having a house payment at the same time. And we didn't have any kids. So we just stayed there with my parents for 3 years. We banked a lot of money. And then when the opportunity came, we bought the lot where we live now. And we just started saving money, and then we built the house. So it was a sacrifice we made to live there for 3 years under their roof,
Newlyweds.
under their rules, newlyweds and all.
Yeah.
But we had a plan. We
Yeah.
had a plan. We knew what we wanted to do, but we didn't want to go in debt
Right.
early and then have the stress of the business and the debt at the same time.
Because
So
that's
we-
one thing that I'm struggling with now is just not having that credit history, or you know, it's hard to go to those banks when I don't have, you know, I'm
Yeah.
fresh out of
Yeah.
college, and so I don't
Yeah.
have much to show for it.
Yeah.
But I'm working and I got an income, and they be wanting that.
They want that paper trail, and it was funny because that's how we think alike. Because when you asked that question, I was going to talk about that sacrifice. That's when we talk about let us tell you about the sacrifice piece. Because we're talking, we got married, we had a huge wedding in South Bend. 1,000 people at our wedding. We went to Indianapolis, and our mindset was everybody that we hung with down in Indianapolis, they was building houses.
Yeah.
So here we are, 27 years old. I'm like, we can build a house. They were like 3% down. We were like, okay. We got, we had our wedding, got wedding money and stuff like that, and we were like, we're gonna build. So it was surrounding yourself with people that were like-minded.
Yeah.
Here was our friends in Indianapolis. Everybody's building houses. You would go to these different builders, and we were thinking, we 20-some, young 20s, and going, we're gonna build a house. We just got married, so we had got engaged, and then we started looking at building a house. So we got married, and then boom, they were building a house as we were. I was still in South Bend, finishing up my job at the housing authority, and he was down in Indianapolis, and I had to move down, quit my job, and then move down to Indianapolis, and then I got the home. And so, it was just gaining that knowledge from the first builder. He sat us down and he said, this is what your needs and wants are. This is what you can buy. This is your debt to income ratio. I had big dreams. I wanted all that, big. He said, no, this is what you're gonna buy.
Yeah.
Okay. And then at that time we got with our State Farm agent, because Derek was with State Farm in a different capacity operations. And she sat down with us, and then she started feeding into us about universal life policies and getting a mortgage life policy and disability policy, and this is what you want to get, and this is how you want to save. Plus, Derek had already been at Ball State, being a business major, learning about stocks and bonds. And so that's where that sacrifice came in, and that's what we tell people all the time. We came back to South Bend to start the business. It was all about being able to sacrifice for 3 years. So we went from W-2, again, and I want to reiterate with everybody that's listening. We went from a W-2 steady income.
What's a W-2?
So the W-2 means I would go to my job, 9 to 5, I get that pay, my salary or my check every 2 weeks. I know what it's gonna be.
Yeah.
We went from W-2 family to a 1099 family. That's that commission. That means that's hustle. That means you got to get out and sell. And we were selling them policies of life, life insurance, and we had to build a business. And then you're right, we go home, and we were the last ones to get paid.
Wow.
The last one. And so we sacrificed, so the stability came in by staying with our in-laws and just having to pay them a little bit. They didn't charge us like, if any newlywed couple would want to have their own place. But we said, hey, well, they had a big house they had built, it was beautiful, and we said we'd take that side of the house, and we stayed there, and then we finally went to go build another home, and then we met with the developer here in South Bend, because I was all about coming back and being invested.
Yeah.
Okay, and we said, we're gonna be here, it's great to live here in South Bend, and we're gonna sacrifice for a little bit, we're gonna save our money, we're gonna save up, we're gonna, not gonna have all the fancy stuff. And then we saved our money, and then we subcontract and built our own home again. So we built our second house. So now even under 30, we didn't build our second home.
Yeah.
And so we did that, and so I was still working for him, and so then at that point, I was pregnant with Taylor, my oldest, and there comes a time where we loved working together, and it was fine, but it was an opportunity when my friends from high school had this mortgage company, and said, hey, you like to sell, Wesley, you sell it for Derek. It was a good pipeline.
Yep.
So I sell a house, Derek could do the insurance. So that's how I got it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
And then I went from mortgages. That's when I learned about mortgages. And everything I do, and I didn't realize, I'm helping a cause.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
Even with the State Farm business, we were helping people learn about life insurance. We were helping people know that you have to be financially secure. And so then I went from mortgages to opening my own mortgage company. And then the stock market crashed.
Oh.
I was at my game. I had my own company, Carrington Mortgage, and I was just ready, and then the stock market crashed. That's when the industry went belly up.
Yeah.
But I had the real estate license. So I had a real estate license, and so I went and got my license for real estate. So I had a real estate license, and from all the information I gained from Key Bank, when I worked there at W-2,
Yeah.
and then what I gained from working as a commission worker, even with State Farm, working for Derek, and then working for the mortgage company, Tri-State, and the other mortgage company, I just kind of bottled up all that information and said, okay, I will always keep this real estate license and everything else that I know how to do. So I worked with, first-time home buyers for Key Bank, and getting them into homes, and always just educating people from the mortgage to buying a home to the life insurance component, because I had my life insurance, life and health, property and casualty license also, because at that time when you were a spouse, it was good for you to have a license also, especially working in the office with them. So I had no license. So I was the risk taker, and Derek was the conservative one. So he watched, and I was out there like, let's invest. Let's buy this, we should, do this. And so that's why I branched out on my own, so that we could start building those other streams.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, that we talk about, having those other streams, that backup. And so when you are a commissioned household, on commission, your mentality is always, you got grind because you're the last one.
Mm-hmm.
Grind because you're the last one. So you need to start having them 7 streams, and as I started trying to build, I always try to make sure my toolbox was diversified enough that, oh, that ain't gonna work for me, oh, okay, let me go in there and get it. But I always had a passion for youth.
Yeah.
I always had a passion of giving back in the community, and we've talked about this before. So what can I do to still fulfill my passion, but in the meantime, still educate the people around me?
Man, that was a lot. That's a lot.
I tried to put it all. I know.
She didn't tell you about the rental properties and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And it's funny because even when she was in the mortgage business, that's when we found out that rental properties are available, and then you can buy them for pretty cheap. And so that's how we got in the rental property business. And we ended up buying and selling a lot of properties for people that needed them.
Right.
And we still have a few now, but we also got into buying some lots and selling some lots in real estate for some pretty good money. So the opportunities are out there, but you don't know until you start networking and developing relationships with people in the community. And sometimes these things fall in your lap.
Yeah.
I mean, an opportunity we had to buy a lot, we bought it for $35,000 in a year and a half. We sold it for $120,000. Those opportunities don't come every day, but if you're in the right place and you're doing the right things, you make the right choices.
Right.
God will sit them in your lap, and you sit back and say, "How did
Yeah.
that happen?" And I wasn't even interested in rental property stuff like that. I was like, I don't fix no toilets, stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then, but she opened my mind to some opportunities that are there. And she said, risk taker. Now, I'm the risk of the stock market. I play the stock market a lot. I buy and sell stocks, and I invest in companies. The very companies you all wearing, the very companies you all use, I invest in them. Because I know your loyalty to these companies, that if you're loyal to them, everybody's going to be loyal to them. And I did a I went and talked to Washington High School in 2016, and it was funny because I asked the whole class, I said, well, what's the best phone? And it was 99% said, oh, it's an Apple phone.
For sure.
I said, wow, I said, these kids at a young age, at 16 to 17, have a loyalty to Apple. Who's buying the phones? Parents.
Yeah.
Who's buying the computers? Parents.
Mm-hmm.
So if their loyalty is like this, I gotta buy it. So I bought the stock at $93 a share at the time. And when Apple just split last year at $5.25 a share. So these are things that are opportunities that are out there that people don't see.
Right.
You go to Walmart every day.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we shop at Walmart, we shop at Myers, but nobody invests in the company.
Yeah.
They buy the products and consume it. And you constantly consuming the product while we're buying the stock and constantly making money while you're purchasing. So Nike's the same way, everything else the same way, and I got my kids in Nike. Made Blake buy Nike stock because he wanted to buy some shoes all the time. I was like, Blake, you know, you got to start participating in the profits, man. You can't be the consumer wearing the shoes and looking good.
Right.
You know, so I made him invest in Nike, and he's now learning that whole process. And so it's opportunities are out there. You don't have to be rich. The misconception is you have to be rich. You don't have to be rich. You just have to sacrifice, you know, a little bit of your money up front. And then, you know, over time, and I've been doing this, I'm 54, and I started doing it at 22. So I've been doing it for a long time.
Yeah.
But that's where young people, I say, get involved early in your 401ks and saving money and getting in the habit of saving a little bit of what money that you work so hard for. Stop paying into your rent places or your car places. Pay yourself first.
Yeah.
You know, obviously pay God, give your 10%. I believe in that. You know, I'm a Christian. I believe in giving 10%. Give a little bit to your neighborhood, your community on top of that, and pay yourself first and let that grow over time. And you know, it's I've been 32 years. It goes fast, but I'm having fun.
Right.
We're all having fun. And then you got a spouse to it that has another income and all, and then things start snowballing. So,
Yeah.
so be patient, but have a plan.
So in the midst of all the work, the nonstop work, where do you find time for the bonding between you two to keep the relationship healthy? What's your thoughts on that?
That's a good question, and I'm
question.
gonna tell you, that's where a lot of it. So we had the saying when we go into the office, we lovers, we're married, we're lovers, but when we hit that door, we co-workers.
Right.
Okay, and you had to find that balance, and that was one of the reasons why I was finding myself that we were talking about State Farm. We would come home all the time and start talking about State Farm too much. And everything was State Farm, but you could go work together, and then you know, you hitting that grind all the way to 8 o'clock, or 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock at night. You come home, you're tired and all that, and then you know, you had to have that balance. And so we really, truly, our spiritual side keeps us balanced. That we hit that when you know, every morning Derek hits that feet hit that floor. I mean, sometimes he don't say anything to me. He goes right into his meditation. It's that spiritual part of it. And then that is really the keeps us grounded, is that we go into that meditation and spiritual side in the morning of getting that off the ground first. And then really having that work-life balance. But that spiritual piece of it is really what keeps you, that foundation really level. Because you can lose yourself in the hustle.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's been, I mean, you could work too much and try to really catch that dollar that you forget about your spouse, either way. Okay? And so that's where you really truly have to keep that fire going. You still got to be able to have that work-life balance. Fellowship together, that's that worship together, praying together, being able to say, you know what, Jared, we like, cut it off, shut the phone down. You got 2 phones left? You're like, shut them off. Or, you know, you really have to have that time where you just need to cuddle. You just say, and they ain't gonna talk about no business. You know, we ain't gonna talk about no business. We got a section of the house where the offices are, and that's it. And when you shut off the light, don't. And I mean, I had got to a point where, you know, I was running like 2 businesses out of the home, and you just really find yourself, I'm always on the other side of that. And you peek in there and you're like, you still working? So I had to stop. Because if you don't, it could really destroy your marriage.
Mm.
Because all you're doing is grinding and trying to get the next hustle on. And then before you know it, that becomes a principality and becomes an idol. So that's why we tell people as we build businesses and we have 7 streams of income trying to come in, you still gotta have that relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And take your time before you had kids.
Mm-hmm.
Because, we waited, I was 27.
You were, no, I had.
Oh, I was older than that, wasn't
You was
I?
older.
I even forget.
Yeah, 'cause
but
I-
anyway,
yeah.
we deliberately waited
Yeah, 29.
to have kids, yeah, and I might have been 30.
And Derek was 30.
Yeah, because we knew we were too busy. And so
Mhm.
bringing kids in a relationship where you're trying to get a foundation for your family is tough,
Yeah.
And then when you add the kids, I think we were more stable and more ready when we added the kids because we kind of knew, obviously it's a new to having kids. You don't know when they're going to sleep, what time they're going to sleep, but it's another adjustment.
Right.
Yeah.
Now you're adding somebody else into the fold
Yeah.
when you only was focused on each other.
Yeah.
So take your time with kids and take your time, let your goals be long-term and don't try to conquer the world when you're young, in 5 years, 2 years.
Yeah.
I know young people are very excited to do some things and to have some goals, but give yourself some time to reach those goals and enjoy life every day.
Mm.
If I had to do it all over again, I wouldn't change the way we did it. I think it's all trial and error. But I think you also have to sacrifice. When you get married, and nobody's the same. Don't let nobody tell you that. Oh, we were married, we were supposed to be together. I married the opposite. She is totally opposite of me.
Mm-hmm.
But I learned, even through sports and through ups and downs in life, that if you're willing to make that sacrifice, long term, everything's going to come out right.
Mm-hmm.
It might not look good right now, or it might not benefit you right now, but if you can make this thing work long term, it's going to be beneficial if you work together.
Right.
And I just think God gave us a compliment. Why do life by myself when I can do it with somebody else?
Right.
And that's it just made life so much more easier
Right.
to me. And the reason why I like investments too, and she talked about hustles, and she's thinks about businesses, opportunities all the time. She's like, but I always think about investments all the time. The reason I like investments is because I don't have to do any work.
Right.
Once I invest that dollar, Apple, those people work for me.
Mm-hmm.
There's a big difference. Nike works for me. Those employees work for me. That's the way I look at it.
Right.
And I don't have to supervise them, I don't have to fire them. All I have to do is sit back and let them work.
Yeah.
And so, over time, they working real hard. So
Yeah.
yeah. So that's a different philosophy than trying to create a lot of companies and be busy and things like that. But that's key, man. The relationship, all your relationships are going to be key, whether it's husband and wife, whether it's your mother and father, friends, people you network in the community is all important.
Mm.
So I think.
Go ahead,
You
bro.
got another question?
Yeah, for sure. I got something.
What's up?
I think that something that you said is both of you guys said is so powerful. What drew you, what made it important to come back to South Bend, the city in which you were raised? That's something that we try to really emphasize and try to push to our generation, right? Because we got individuals that's becoming doctors, that's becoming skilled in various fields, and we're trying to recruit these individuals to come back.
Right.
Come back and start your practice here. Do these things here in our hometown in which we grew up. So how important, how did you, what drew you back? What made it so important?
Well, Derek, we were actually probably on our way to Texas. That was gonna probably be his next assignment.
Okay.
And it's funny because they had talked to Derek about being a State Farm agent. And got married and had packed up, and I went on to Indianapolis, and we were living this fairy tale life, built a new home, newlyweds, we living the life. W-2 job, I'm like, and they came and said, hey, first time, would you like to be an agent? And Derek, I think he called or came and said, hey, they want me to be an agent, and he was like, the gentleman passed away. So now, it wasn't just talking about it, it was, we need an agent. The gentleman that Derek took the agency over had passed away unexpectedly. So now you had to make a quick decision. So and you built this house, newlyweds, I got a job, he had a job at State Farm, and in Indianapolis, our friends from college all lived in, and you're like, I don't know. But one thing, we're family. And we would go home and see family, and we would be hard on them Sundays to go back, because everybody was here, and we were so close to our families, and we were like, man. And then we just said, you know what, They met with us, and then they started kind of laying out the plan, and then I said, let's do it. And then we put our house on the market, and here's where, this is nothing but God. So we have this brand new home, and you can build a household. We thought, oh, it ain't gonna sell, I'm gonna have to stay in Indianapolis, and then, Derek will have to go on back to South Bend. It sold in 14 days. We were actually in South Bend, and the agent called and said that they had a potential buyer, the doctor at IEPY, and we had to move out like in 30 days or something, and then we were like, everything was just so fast.
Yeah.
But it was so destined.
Mm-hmm.
So this is where it all, because we knew it was ordered by God, because here we are in a subdivision that you could really build our household, and then it sold, we made money off of it. Sold in 14 days, and then we had to come back to South Bend. And so, and then we went to, he talked to his mother and father and said, hey, and come back, they said, oh, they had built this big home here in South Bend. They were like, y'all just come, live with us. We were like, okay, so we checked that off. And so everything was, it was just ordered, and it was destined, and it was just right. And I was so glad I came back, because that was 94, and then 6 years later, my dad and brother got killed. And so, in a tragic car accident, and so I knew it was destined for us to be back here, and for us to come back.
Yeah.
And when we came back, we became mentors also with the program that they had through South Bend Schools. We picked LaSalle High School at the time, and we had these mentees, and it was a program that they had established through South Bend Schools, and I had a mentee, and Derek had a mentee, and everything just started flowing. And so it was just like, I cannot describe to you all, because it was just so unreal. It was like, really, just turn the key to business. You just had to go in and turn the key. You had to work, but it was just ordered. And that's how, and so I've been trying to push, and here's the thing I've been telling people about South Bend, being in real estate, and having my own real estate company. Okay, this is a great place to start a business. It's a great place to live because of the cost of living, okay? And that was the whole thing about being back, it's the cost of living here. You can live here, the medium income. When we talk about medium income, is we're looking at what can a family really afford. And at that time, you could look at some of the statistics say like a family afford could be $45,000, $46,000. So you think about you and a spouse. I mean, y'all can be really making in South Bend $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 a piece, and really make it. And then so that's when we teach a lot about our financial literacy, and we teach a lot about not being rich but being wealthy. That means having that mental state of mental stability, along with not trying to be rich. Because when you try to chase dollars, if you chase money, you gotta keep chasing it. Because with that, you start buying stuff you don't need. Accumulating things you don't really need, and it's just things. But being here and looking at the opportunities and saying, why I'm here in South Bend, what are some of the things that I can do, and then that other piece about giving back. So we talk about that wealth building piece, but it also, the big thing for us has been, and anybody that's listening about coming back to South Bend, is that let's build up our community.
Yeah.
I can always go visit. I can visit Indy, I can visit Chicago. I mean, we pipeline. You think about our place, we can go just I call it the 94-31 pipeline. I could hit Detroit, I could hit Chicago, the 31 pipeline, I could hit Indianapolis. I mean, I could go a lot of places, or I'm so close to O'Hare and Southwest, Midway. So you can, and then you come back here and have a peace of mind. It's not a lot of hustle and bustle here.
Yeah.
And everybody knows each other.
Yeah.
And then you can build here, and when I say that is anything that you've been wanting to do, you can start it here.
And it was family for me too, just in sense of community. I just didn't feel a part of the Indianapolis community. It was so big,
Right.
and coming back home to South Bend, you know, all my friends are still basically here, and mainly family, and to get involved in coaching. I wanted to get a little bit involved in coaching, so it just made it feel comfortable coming back here and being around family. And again, I knew South Bend would be a great place to raise our kids, because it wasn't a crime in Indianapolis. It wasn't the, you know, the size. You know, you might be going across town for basketball games or something. Take you a half hour, 45 minutes. Well, South Bend takes us 10 minutes to get where we need to go. And plus, there are people already here that we already knew. So family and friends is, despite what people say, you know, they might get on your nerves sometimes, but that's just part of it. I'd rather them get on my nerves than somebody that I don't know.
Right.
You know, and I have a community that I don't really know and feel a part of. So.
Yeah. And our kids were raised by their grandparents, and that is very rare. To be, you know, I listen to a lot of my friends across the United States, and they're like, oh, Wesley, you're just so blessed to be able, you're there to be home with your parents, and then my children were able to see, and I mean, spend time with their grandparents. You know what I'm saying?
That's important.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
And you can leave, I can leave.
You all both.
Papa and them raised you, Dad and them, got them raised you.
For sure.
And so when you think about it, that is something that that's priceless.
Yeah.
I mean, I could leave, I mean, we could work, and then my mother-in-law started daycare. She said, hey, when we had Taylor, she started a daycare, and then my mom helped raise Blake. It was always family. You know, in a big city, nobody's going, I mean, I don't, you know, that's the thing, the peace of mind that you have as a parent, and you guys are going to be upcoming family soon, is that you want that peace of mind of being able to drop your kids off and not have to worry about somebody else raising them, and who you don't really know, and then that hustle bustle of a big city right now. You know, now if I decide if I want to, you know, after I retire, if I want to have a winter home and maybe a home in Florida or something, that's a little different. I won't have any children. That was a big factor. You know, big factor. So like I said, just coming back and being able to build your community.
Right.
Being able to build, you know,
Have a part in it.
have a part of it. Be a part of them, you know, collaborating like this makes me feel good. Because this is the big thing, is being able to come back here and making a difference in your community.
Yeah.
Well, we just want to say thank you for coming back. Thank you for all
Glad to
the
be
things that y'all
back.
did sacrifice so that we were able to learn and see, and we can now be able to give the people your story if they didn't know it before, and they can learn and do the same things. And I know one of the biggest takeaways for me was just the planning part. The planning, well, first off, the belief, the faith. Obviously, you got to do that because he has his own plan at the end of the day.
That's right.
For sure.
But you still want to take what he gives you through prayer, and you want to prepare for the goals that you want to reach in your life. And I think that's something you all did very well, that I want to adopt and really get in the lab and start preparing, writing stuff down, and making sure things are in order. And then family. Obviously, the relationship started with you two, and now it grew to 3 beautiful kids. And how you kind of nurture that, and you nurtured it right here where you came from, right? And I think that's what a lot of people don't understand, is where you come from, you can still grow other things, long as it's just that's why we name our show Minds from the Mud, right? Because any plot of land that you take care of, you need to fertilize the soil first. You need to make sure that the land is ready to be, is ready for seeds to be planted, right? And that's what you said by waiting. You wanted to make sure that your foundation was solid before you brought kids into this world. And then once you planted those seeds, they were able to blossom and do beautiful things. But it was because of the foundation that you built, because your soil was ready, right? And so, coming from Minds from the Mud, our end goal is obviously to stay alive and free. But you want to make sure you're prepared while you're enjoying life. You want to prepare to reach those goals that you reach in. And so I just want to say thank you. We really appreciate y'all, for sure.
Most definitely. Thank you. Time is one of the most valuable possessions we have. And it means a lot to me and both of us that you came to sacrifice some of your time and share with us and share with our listening audience. It's important. It's important.
You have to reach back. you have to reach back and you have to give back. My husband always said, but unless you're a giver, I'm a big giver because somebody saved me. And that's why I tell somebody, I always tell people all the time, I'm huge in out of school learning because out of school learning saved me. It was somebody pouring into my life and spending time with giving me knowledge and planting those seeds in life. And I always tell my children now, I've been down those paths. And so I'm trying to make sure that I can give you the detour. Because sometimes the detour is up there. You go down that road and you decide to get out the car and move the sign. But I'm trying to tell you, I done moved the sign, hit the speed bump, hit my head, hydroplaned, everything. If you just listen to what I tell you, here's a path. You don't even have to worry about the detour. Now, sometimes in life you can take those detours if you want to, and then you can come back, and that's when we had that dialogue and conversation.
I think for young people too, it's important that you really know your identity, because I think we all struggle when we're young and getting out of college, or what should we be doing? What is success? Is it a car? Is it a house? Is it a job title?
Is it clothes?
Is it a lot of people? Is it clothes? What is it? And I think I found peace when I gave my life to Christ, that I knew where my success was.
Right.
I'm already successful because of my relationship with Christ. That's guaranteed. And it's like you said, now I get direction from God every day.
Right.
By spending time with Him, but He also gives me an opportunity to be creative myself.
Right.
He got His plans for me, but He gives me also plans for me and my family and things like that. So I think that's a beautiful thing, knowing your identity. And when you don't, you struggle.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of people struggling right now through this pandemic, through not being able to do the things they're normally doing with their friends and things like that. And they're struggling with identity. They're struggling with success. They're struggling with all these things that the world tells you are or should be doing. When I think, and one of the things I told my kids is, you don't ever have to worry about, if you in Christ, you don't have to worry about being successful, proving to anybody you're successful. You're already successful.
Right.
So you can have peace, and then everything else is a bonus. So young people, that's all I'm saying is don't look at know what your identity is. And I know mine was in Christ, and I tell everybody else it's in Christ, because then God communicates to you to tell you the plan He has for you.
Right.
Otherwise, you just opening doors and going through doors and frustration. When God says, go through this door, and I'll make sure everything else takes care of itself. So, but thanks for having us.
Yeah.
It's a pleasure. We wish you all the best.
Yeah,
Sure.
we always love talking to y'all too. I call y'all.
We are going to sow some into your business too.
Okay.
Because for having us.
We're
Sure.
gonna sow
It's a
into
seed
you
to your
all.
business.
Yeah.
We know it's got some potential to grow.
Yeah,
Appreciate that.
we are very proud of you too. It made us proud, especially when both said, "Hey, we gotta get y'all on the show." We said, that makes me proud, and I'm glad to be a part, and that's why I was so glad. Was looking forward to being here today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was
Thank you
good.
all for coming back.
Yeah.
And
Staying.
thank you all y'all for coming back. 'Cause
Yeah.
that made, I know that you all could say, hey, y'all graduates, y'all could be like anywhere, come back and say, and I'm out, and because the world entices everybody, and they say, oh, South End, but I'm glad that you all come back, because you're role models and people are going to be looking at you, and they're going to be watching you, and they're going to be wanting to feed off of your energy, and you guys have really good energy. I mean, your energy is phenomenal. I be forgetting, I'm like, how old are them two? Y'all old. Both. Y'all old. Y'all got old souls, but you got gifts.
Yeah.
And y'all got some powerful gifts, and you all have to use them.
Yeah.
Y'all gotta use your gifts.
Yeah.
Because, like I said, and always reach one back, one teach one. Reach one back, one teach one. Grab them, and teach them. And then always know that, we've been there. And so, we're not gonna tell you nothing wrong, we're gonna tell you the truth, because it is what it is. And so, but you at that age now with so much potential. Always journal, keep that journal by your bed, wake up in the middle of the night and write your dreams. And always remember Jeremiah 29:11. Know your plans, know the plans, because He's gonna give it to you. And confirmation gonna come, and you're gonna be like, oh yeah. Oh, and it's okay to take risk.
Yeah.
As Mr. Wesley said, I'm a risk taker. I said, let's do it. Okay, and you're gonna find those spouses that's gonna say, that's why you find that equally yoked spouse that'll say, hey, we are opposite. People think we're spiritually together and bonded, but we are opposite when it comes to a lot of things, and that's what keeps that balance with us, and that spark that you talked about.
Right.
Like, hey, get that spark?
Yeah.
I'm like, come on, let's go. Dude, and so that's me. And so Mr. Wesley be like, I don't know, about be conservative. I'm like, come on, let's do it. And then when we do it, he'd be like, oh, baby, you thought you was right. I knew we should have did
Worked
something.
out.
Yeah, it worked out.
Yeah, so that's good. I want to end with a quote that would just pop into my mind that always was given to me, and I want to share with the podcast listening audience. And the quote it states, "To whom much is given, much is required." Right. And for those of us who have a lot, and those of us who don't have that as much, we want to be sure one thing that we do have is life. Right? We were given life, and we want to exude the great things that were put in us naturally back out into the world, and you do have that to give. So if you don't have $1, if you don't have clothes, if you don't, you know what I'm saying, give your gift back, as Ms. Leslie said, give your gift back, and can stay consistent with being alive and free.
That's right.
And so that's my word.
That's your word.
Thanks for being here with us. Thanks for listening. And I'll just say love and gratitude. We're going to see you next week.
Peace.
All right.